Imagine two fighter jets screaming through the sky at Mach speed, wingtip to wingtip, over the sparkling blue waters of the Aegean Sea. The pilots can see each other's helmets. Their threat warning systems are blaring, screaming that they are locked on by a missile. This isn't a scene from Top Gun. This is a Tuesday morning on the southern flank of NATO. These pilots are supposed to be allies. They fly the same American-made planes. But they are locked in a feud so deep and so volatile that one wrong move, one twitch of a finger, could spark a war that tears Europe apart. Welcome to the Global Code, where today we are decoding the most dangerous neighborhood dispute on Earth. While the world watches Ukraine and the Middle East, a massive storm is gathering in the Mediterranean between Greece and Turkey. Old wounds are reopening, and new weapons are being deployed. We are witnessing the breakdown of a century-old peace, and the consequences will hit everything from your energy bill to the stability of the entire Western alliance. Before we dive into the secret maps and the military strategies, I have a critical mission for you. We spend hundreds of hours analyzing these conflicts so you don't have to guess what happens next. If you want to stay ahead of the curve and understand the real forces shaping our world, please hit that subscribe button right now. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss a deep dive. It is the single best way to support the Global Code and keep this truth-telling mission alive. To understand why these two neighbors are ready to strangle each other, you have to understand that in this part of the world, history isn't something you read in a book. It's something you live every day. For Greece, the modern era is defined by the trauma of 400 years of Ottoman occupation and the desperate fight for independence. For Turkey, their modern republic was forged in the fire of a war against a Greek invasion in 1922. These aren't just stories. They are the lens through which every diplomat and general in Athens and Ankara views the world. For decades, an uneasy peace held these ghosts at bay. But recently, that peace has shattered. Why now? Because the balance of power is shifting. Turkey, under President Erdogan, has transformed from a passive NATO member into an assertive regional superpower with dreams of restoring its historical influence. Greece, having survived a brutal economic collapse, has decided it will no longer be pushed around. When you have two nations with heavy historical baggage and brand new missiles operating in a crowded sea, you have a recipe for disaster. Let's look at the map, because this is where the real trouble starts. If you look at the Aegean Sea, it looks like a shattered plate. There are thousands of Greek islands, and some of them are incredibly close to the Turkish mainland. The island of Castellariço, for example, is over 300 miles away from Athens, but it is less than 2 miles from the Turkish coast. You could literally swim across. Under international law, specifically the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, islands generally get their own maritime zones. This means Greece claims the rights to the water and the seabed around these distant islands. If you draw the map the way Athens wants, the Aegean Sea becomes almost entirely a Greek lake. Turkey would be trapped in its own bays, unable to send a ship to the open ocean without passing through Greek jurisdiction. Turkey says this is unfair and ridiculous. They have the longest coastline in the Eastern Mediterranean, yet they are being told they have almost no economic zone. In response, Ankara created a new doctrine called Mavi Vatan, or the Blue Homeland. They drew a new map that claims vast swathes of the sea, waters that Greece considers its own, as Turkish territory. They didn't just draw lines on a map. They sent warships to enforce them. This is the core of the dispute. Greece relies on international law. Turkey relies on geography and power. And right now, those two things are crashing into each other. If historical hatred and messy maps weren't enough, let's throw in the ultimate accelerant: money. Massive amounts of it. Over the last 15 years, geologists have discovered colossal reserves of natural gas sitting beneath the floor of the Eastern Mediterranean. We are talking about enough energy to power Europe for decades and break the continent's reliance on Russian gas. This discovery turned the region into a gold rush. Greece, Cyprus, Israel, and Egypt formed a club to drill for this gas and build a pipeline to Europe. The problem? They left Turkey out. Ankara watched as its neighbors divided up the sea and the riches, leaving nothing for the country with the biggest army in the region. Turkey's reaction was explosive. They sent their own drill ships, escorted by frigates, into the contested waters. In the summer of 2020, this led to a terrifying standoff. A Greek frigate and a Turkish frigate actually collided at sea. It was a miracle that nobody opened fire. But the message was clear. Turkey will not let the gas flow unless they get a piece of the pie. This is no longer just about flags, it's about the future of energy security. Now let's talk hardware. Because diplomacy is failing, both sides are sharpening their knives. This is where the situation gets truly scary for military planners. For years, the Greek and Turkish militaries were roughly equal, using similar American technology. But that parity is gone. Turkey has become a drone superpower. You have seen the Bayraktar TB2 drones in Ukraine and Azerbaijan. They are cheap, effective, and Turkey can mass-produce them. Ankara's strategy is swarm warfare. They want to overwhelm Greek air defenses with hundreds of armed drones and unmanned boats. They are building an amphibious assault ship, the Anadolu, specifically designed to launch these drones. Greece, realizing it cannot match Turkey's numbers, has gone for high-tech supremacy. Athens went on a shopping spree in France. They bought the Rafale fighter jet, a game-changer. The Rafale comes equipped with the Meteor missile, a weapon that can shoot down enemy aircraft from over 60 miles away, often before the enemy even knows they are being targeted. Greece also ordered state-of-the-art French frigates that can create a no-fly zone around their islands. So we are seeing a dangerous experiment. Turkey AUS quantity and robotic warfare versus Greece AUS quality and Western tech. Both sides believe they can win, and when both sides think they can win, war becomes much more likely. Greece knows it cannot fight Turkey alone in a long war. The numbers just don't add up. So Athens has adopted a strategy of diplomatic encirclement. They have gone out and made best friends with everyone who has a problem with Turkey. The most significant move was signing a defense pact with France. This is a huge deal. It includes a mutual defense clause that effectively says if Turkey attacks Greece, they aren't just fighting Athens, they are fighting the French Navy and its nuclear capabilities. This French umbrella has emboldened Greece to stand firm, but the United States is also deeply involved. For decades, Washington tried to be the neutral referee, but recently the U.S. has tilted toward Greece. The port of Alexandroupolis in northern Greece has become a vital hub for the U.S. military to move weapons into Eastern Europe, bypassing the Turkish-controlled straits. Turkey sees this and feels encircled. Erdogan looks at the map and sees American bases in Greece, French ships in Cyprus, and Israeli cooperation in the Mediterranean. He feels that NATO is being weaponized against him. This paranoia makes Turkey more unpredictable and more aggressive. Here's the nightmare scenario that experts at the Global Code worry about the most. It's called the 12-mile limit. Under international law, Greece has the right to expand its territorial waters from 6 miles to 12 miles around its islands. If they did this, it would effectively close the Aegean Sea to Turkey. Turkey has officially declared that if Greece expands to 12 miles, it will be considered a casus belli, a cause for war. Not a diplomatic protest, but actual war. Greece says, we have the right to do it whenever we want. Turkey says, try it and see what happens. This is a gun loaded and pointed at the head of Europe. All it takes is one populist speech, one desperate politician needing a boost in the polls to pull that trigger. If Greece declares 12 miles, the Turkish Navy would almost certainly sortie to break the blockade. NATO would be paralyzed. Article 5 wouldn't apply clearly because it's a fight between two members. It would be chaos. There is another weapon in this conflict that doesn't use gunpowder: people. Turkey hosts millions of refugees from Syria and the Middle East. President Erdogan has, in the past, threatened to open the gates and flood Europe with migrants if his demands aren't met. For Greece, this is a hybrid warfare threat. In 2020, thousands of migrants were bused to the Greek land border at the Evros River. Greek police had to use tear gas to hold back the crowds while Turkish security forces fired tear gas back at the Greeks. It was a chaotic, ugly scene. Greece fears that in the event of a crisis, Turkey will use migration as a battering ram to overwhelm Greek resources and distract their military. It turns human desperation into a tactical weapon. I want to take you for a moment to the perspective of the people living on these islands. Imagine living on Chios or Lesbos. You can see the lights of Turkish cities at night. You eat similar food, listen to similar music. But every time you hear a sonic boom overhead, your heart stops. Is it a drill? Or is it the invasion? The islanders are living in a fortress. The beaches are beautiful, but the hills behind them are dug out with bunkers and artillery positions. Turkey demands that these islands be demilitarized, citing treaties from the 1920s. Greece says, We will demilitarize them when you stop pointing the largest landing fleet in the Mediterranean at them. It is a standoff where the civilians are the hostages. You might be watching this from Chicago or London or Sydney thinking, why does a sea border in the Mediterranean affect me? It affects you because the world is interconnected. The Aegean and Eastern Mediterranean are global shipping superhighways. They are the gateway to the Suez Canal and the Black Sea. If a war turns this region into a no-go zone, global shipping rates skyrocket. Supply chains, already fragile, would snap. The energy prices in Europe would spike again, causing inflation that ripples across the US and global markets. A collapse of NATO's southern flank would also leave a massive security vacuum that Russia would be all too happy to fill. Vladimir Putin is watching this rivalry with a smile. Every crack in NATO is a win for Moscow. We cannot analyze this without looking at the man at the center of it, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. He is a survivor. He has reshaped Turkey in his image, but he is facing economic headwinds at home. Inflation in Turkey has been brutal. History tells us that when strong men face trouble at home, they look for enemies abroad. The blue homeland is a popular nationalist rallying cry. Picking a fight with Greece distracts the public from the price of bread. But the same is true in Greece. The government in Athens knows that standing up to the Turkish bully is a guaranteed vote winner. This nationalism trap makes de-escalation impossible. Neither leader can afford to look weak. Neither leader can be the one to blink first. Before the first missile flies, the war will likely start in the shadows. Both nations have ramped up their cyber capabilities. We are seeing constant probing of power grids, banking systems, and military networks. In a conflict, the first sign might not be an explosion, but a blackout in Athens or Istanbul, or a massive disinformation campaign designed to panic the population. Greece has been working closely with Israel and the US to build a cyber dome, while Turkey has its own formidable army of hackers. This silent war is happening right now, 24/7, beneath the surface of the diplomatic smiles. So, where is this all heading? At the Global Code, we see three possible futures. Scenario 1, the cold peace. The current tensions simmer but don't boil over. Both sides continue to spend billions on weapons they hope never to use. It's a waste of resources, but it keeps people alive. This is the most likely scenario, but it is fragile. Scenario 2, the accident. This is the Sarajevo moment. A collision at sea, a pilot error during a dogfight, or a rogue commander firing a shot. In the heat of the moment, with nationalism running high, leaders might feel forced to escalate rather than apologize. This could lead to a localized naval battle that lasts a few days before the US steps in. Scenario 3, total rupture. Turkey, feeling completely boxed in by the West, decides to break away from NATO's orbit entirely, pivoting toward Russia and China. To secure its maritime borders before leaving, it launches a limited operation to seize a Greek island. This would be catastrophic, marking the end of the NATO alliance as we know it, and plunging Europe into a new era of instability. Is it all doom and gloom? Not entirely. We have seen moments of earthquake diplomacy. When tragedy strikes, like the devastating earthquakes in Turkey, Greece is often the first to send help. These moments remind both sides of their shared humanity. There have been recent meetings, calm handshakes, and promises to keep communication channels open. But the structural problems remain. The gas is still there, the maps still overlap, the armies are still growing. Unless there is a grand bargain where both sides agree to share the resources and redraw the maritime boundaries, the fuse remains lit. As we wrap up, remember that this isn't just about two countries bickering over rocks. It is a clash between history and modern law, between the old world order and rising regional powers. It is a test case for whether NATO can survive the 21st century. We are watching a slow-motion car crash. The drivers have tapped the brakes for now, but they are still in the same lane heading toward each other. The Aegean Sea is beautiful, but right now it is one of the most dangerous places on the planet. This is a complex story with deep emotions on both sides. I want to know what you think. Is Turkey right to demand a larger maritime zone based on its coastline? Or is Greece right to defend the sovereignty of its islands under international law? Who is in the right here? Please leave your thoughts in the comments below. I read them, and the debate there is often as insightful as the analysis itself. If you found this deep dive valuable, please hit that like button to help the algorithm share this reality with the world. And don't forget to subscribe to the Global Code. We are here to help you understand the world, one crisis at a time. Stay curious, stay informed, and I'll see you in the next one.